We can't see your screen yet.
Yeah, just hold on 1 second.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. Yeah. Just see my screen now. Please confirm you can see my screen.
Yes. Yes, I can see it from my end.
You can see it, right?
Yes, I can see it.
Okay. Is it in presentation mode? I guess no.
No, not
Oh,
yet. Not yet.
okay. Let's regenerate. Just 1 second. Okay, this right. Share screen. Okay, let me just do this. How about now?
Yes. Presentation mode.
Okay.
Right.
Oh, excellent. All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, technology can play a fast one on you sometimes. Yeah. So I just I left my desk to go and look for a bigger screen, and then
Okay.
uh, so it's like the first time doing it there. All right. Okay. Right. Good afternoon, everyone. Um. I don't know why I'm always being introduced as a professor. I don't have a doctorate degree yet, but I think I just find it, you know, interesting um, when we get into conversation like this. And I believe that most of the things I'm going to talk about, you probably have, you know, at one point or the other time, um, have had one or two experience about it. So I try to make the conversation as practical as possible so that we can relate to it, right? And then we'll go into it right away, right? So backlog management for business analysts, right? According to Babok, right? It's a very um, interesting area, right? That um, it's kind of still an area that most business analysts might not um, be the one leading it, right? Because backlog management itself adds some legs. And I mean some legs, I mean it's borrowed from Agile, Scrum, and then like maybe from other projects, methodologies, and what have you, right? But interestingly, is in Babok. It's the technique 10.2, and the idea is actually the same thing, right? In the sense that if you're a business analyst and then you need to balance in between demand and capacity, right? You need to adopt what we call backlog management. The real sense of it is that it's kind of a strategic way to deal with numerous requests that keeps coming from the business requester, your stakeholders, you know, at any point in time, because in the real sense of it, you might not be able to say no. Um, but you can, diplomatically find a way to say, okay, no problem, bring um, the request or whatever it is, the item, right, that they want to be deployed, right? Or in some cases where you have some very complicated stakeholder matrix, or we have a whole lot of stakeholders and everyone is making a demand. We need this product. We need this feature to go live, or in some scenarios, you have some mandatory or do I say like regulatory requirement that needs to go live. So there has to be that balance where you say we need to balance demand, right, with the resources that you have, right? That's the capacity, right, that you have, and also needs to kind of arrange the request in such a way that it doesn't become chaotic. So what comes to mind is the scenario of airport, right? If you've been to an airport, there's one place somewhere on the tarmac where they call the tower, right? That you know gives direction or that gives permission or that queue up, you know, planes that need to depart and also planes that need to land, right? So if you take away the tower, right, from the airport, you're going to have a chaotic airport, right? And then you're going to have a lot of accidents, and that airport becomes something similar to a car park, right? Where you have a lot of chaos. I mean, you see aeroplane, flying in, another one trying to depart, and that will lead to some um, problem or accident. So what is backlog management, right? Backlog management, in simple English, is managing backlog, right? So when I want to ask question, what exactly is backlog? But let's deal with backlog management, right? So if you understand this, the context that I've put up, you understand backlog management as um, a technique that you can use to track and prioritize work items, right? It actually helps you to actually understand how much work do you have, and out of those works that need to be completed, which one should come first, right? Because you don't have infinite resources, right? You only have a set of resources, and then those set of resources, the output that it can give at a point in time is also limited. So, for example, we have 10 developers, right? And then you're having like hundreds of requests coming in, right? You need to do backlog management where you prioritize. We're going to see prioritizing prioritization techniques, right? And then we also look at how we record into backlog. Yeah. So the backlog management just simply gives you, what are the process you use in recording, tracking, and prioritizing work items to ensure that the most the item with the highest priority is the one that is delivered first, the one that will give the highest value, or the one that will we'll talk about Kano um, way of identifying priority, right? what what feature, what product feature that should we deliver, right, for a product owner, yeah, to for the customer, that will wow them, right? We might have 10 features that, oh, this one is nice to have, this one is good, but there's one that if we release it, it gives us the best of business value. It makes the customers to be very happy, right? And in project management is also a way to align resources to the demand, to say, hey, we know you want everything delivered, right? But you know we need to look at it, and and backlog management actually has to do with also stakeholder management, because it's not something you do in isolation, right? You bring in your stakeholder to have that conversation. They give you some information which you use to understand the value that the work item will produce, right? So that's basically in context what backlog management is, right? Um, I try to put an example here, right? In the telecom digital transformation, by prioritizing self-service portal over internal initiative, the BA team improves delivery predictability predictability, and increased customer satisfaction, right? So you can look at, the self-service portal, right, over internal initiatives. Maybe some people say, oh, let's change the color of the application and all of that, right? But if the self-service portal is prioritized, this improves customer satisfaction, right? Right. So basically, right, if you looked into a backlog, right? A backlog is just, you can use, for those who like Excel, you can use Excel, right, to do a backlog, right? You just need to have the item type, the description of what the item is, and then the focus area that that particular item is meant to address. So in this slide, we'll just be talking about what are the different backlog item types, right? And understand the governance for clarity and integrity. So in your backlog, you have user stories, right? These are functional requirement from user's perspective. Or I want as a admin, I want to be able to do X, Y, Z so that WYZ will happen, right? So you have user story is part of the backlog. So you can have 200 user story, everything goes into the backlog, right? Because at that point in time, you're not delivering it, right? But you want to see which of the user story, you know, will have the highest priority in terms of business value, right? Also, probably address the risk, or give the customer the best experience, right? um you have NFRs, that's non-functional requirements, right? Sometimes you wonder which one should we take care of first. Is it the functional requirement or NFRs, right? So you have NFRs in your backlog, right? Then you have defects, right? If you have deployed your products into production, customers are using it and they provide feedback that something is broken, right? It goes into your backlog, right? Then you have technical debt, right? Some code refactoring that you need to do. Maybe there's some um, design, right? That was done. It's working fine, but right, it needs some modification to improve it, to improve the user journey, or you just need to do some upgrades, right? Spikes, research or exploration task to reduce uncertainty. So these are items you find in your backlog, right? Now, if you're not careful, right, one of the things you need to understand about backlog is that it's like a not like it's a living document, so to say, right? Whereby you document everything that people want, or your stakeholder wants, or your business user wants. And then at the same time, you also be you need to also put a governance around it to ensure that you are delivering it, you are depleting it, right? The backlog should not just continue to grow like you're having, 15, 20, 30, you know, items in the backlog and none of them is moving out. So it has to continue to move out. I mean, you need to get items, to be moving out of the backlog while new ones are coming in. Now, the ones that will go out first are the ones that are marked as the highest priority, right? The one that are marked as highest priority, right? Now, in also having a robust governance around your backlog, right? Those backlogs must be carefully reviewed, right? And then, ensure there is no duplication. Then ensure the description you provide is very clear, right? Let me just make you laugh. I think we got someone to do a minute of meeting, and you know, the minute of meeting was done, circulated. Unfortunately, most of us did not read it. However, when we came in the next meeting, and then we asked, okay, let's read the minute of meeting for the last meeting, right? It will interest you that the minute of meeting wasn't even speaking to what we discussed in the last meeting, right? So you can have in instances where you get people to um, log items into the backlog, and then the description isn't clear of what the item is all about, right? So in some areas, or in some, depending on your organization, right? Um, the BA might be given the responsibility to always check the backlog, right? Refine it, groom it, prune it, whatever English you want to say. So it's to look at the backlog and check that there are no um, item there that is not clear. There are no items that is not. I mean, it's not something you can deliver, right? Or the item were just logged there and they've been redundant for more than maybe a month or two, right? So at the point in time, you need to purge out of the backlog, right? Items that have been there for a very long time, right? Like one of the practice we adopt in my organization is that if you have an item, right, a backlog item in the backlog for more than a year, right, it is assumed that is either business exigency, right, no longer require that particular item, is either technology does not support it, is either there are newer features that are better than that feature. Remember, we said it's about priority. Or also, it could be that the person that is making that request is not even clear of exactly what he or she wants. So the BA and the Scrum Master has the responsibility to check the backlog every time, right? To know, I mean, clean up the backlog and then ensure that the strategy, I mean, it's aligned strategically to what needs to go into the sprint, depending on um, what project methodology you are using. Right. So let's talk about prioritization of items to rank backlog items. Right. Now, um, items that you find in the backlog, right? Um, the item that goes out first must actually be an item that is bringing the highest value, right? So you need to do a kind of a prioritization and look at the value that that particular item is bringing. And these are some of the prioritization framework that you can use to rank each of the backlog item, right? It's you just pick one of them, right, to use, and I mean different depends on your business area, right? You look at the one that works for you, and just put in context, right? Backlog, right, is also something that is being used almost every day, right? And it's mostly used also by logistics company, right? To say that which of this item, right, you know, will require us to ship out quickly with little or no effort, right? They get it out quickly. So if there is an item that can be, I mean, the distance to which you're moving it is not far, then you can quickly get this one out while you now deal with other ones. Or you want to also deal with, okay, the items that are big that requires more effort, you need to transport it with vehicles and all of that. Those ones are the ones that be referred to as high priority. Or it could be that, okay, the items that are fragile needs to go out first, right? Now all the items in the warehouse is like, the items in the backlog. So just picture it like that. So you can use any of those prioritization framework to determine it, right? But if you are into products, right, software and all of that, you can say in terms of the feature, right, which one is ranked the highest. And then you can look at each of them. So we have the Moscow. This one is very popular, right? You categorize the items in the backlog to must have, right? These are things that has to be in the product. Without these features, right, you cannot use that product, right? So it's not um, up um, to say whether it should be, it should be delivered or not, right? It should be there. They are critical functionality. Okay, so must have, should have, right? Are also critical, but not as critical as must have, you know, for those products. Could have, it's something that is also important, but not as important as should have, right? And then won't have you know, features that are not even necessary. Maybe they're just for just to make it maybe what we call fancy, just to beautify the product. Those things are maybe colors and all of that, right? If you take it out of the um product, it is still the product will still function. So you can rank your items in your backlog using uh, this prioritization framework. Okay. Now the next one is cost of delay. Now you do some of these actually require calculations, right? And then sometimes they are expressed in numbers, right? They're expressed in numbers, and then if you want to go advanced level, you can see how it is done. I think cost of delay and also WSGF are expressed in numbers, right? Now, cost of delay is, you calculate to say that if we delay to deliver this particular feature, right? What is the economic value, right, that will lose, or what is the economic impact of not delivering it? So, for example, let's say, for example, an automation project or an automation item, right, is expected to save a bank $10,000 per week, right, in operation cost, and then every week you delay to launch it, right? What it means simply means is that every week you are losing $10,000. So if you calculate it, if you take the item to say that this particular item, if we delay it, how much are we going to lose if you continue to delay and not to deliver it? So you can now take all the items in your product backlog, as they say, or backlog, all right, and look at it as this feature. If we don't deliver it by next tomorrow, how much are we losing? If you don't deliver this one by next month, then you rank it, and then the one that has the highest impact in terms of economic impact or the value that you're going to lose needs to go out first of that backlog. That needs to be delivered ASAP. That needs to go into your sprint, or get it into development or whatever it is, to quickly deliver it so that the value is not being lost. So that's another prioritization framework you can use to arrange your uh, backlog. Okay. I'm not seeing your hand, so in case maybe someone is talking, please feel free to nudge me and then call my attention. All right. I hope I've not lost anybody so far.
We're
Hello.
still with you. We're very much with you, sir.
All right. Thank you. All right. Thank you very much. So that's an excellent feedback. All right. So the next one is WSJF, weighted shortest job first, right? Just as I've said earlier, right? These things have what's called formula, right? They are expressed in um, numbers, right? And but the concepts around it is that you calculate the priority based on cost of delay, right? Divided by job size. Now, you've known the cost of delay. Let's say cost of delay is $10 million, but the cost size is small, right? Then you have another item. The cost of delay is $10,000, same $10,000. But the cost of job size, that is the effort required to deliver that job, is much, right? So, what weighted shortest job first is saying is that if this item and this item we're going to lose the same money. I'm just using the same money now, right? And the efforts, right, or the size of the job is small, then we should take the one that is small, right, out of our backlog, right? We should get it done since it's small. That means we'll be able to deliver it, in a short time, right? So that is what he's saying, that when you weight the size of the job, the one with the shortest job is the one that needs to go out first. So I'm taking time to speak to this because this is actually the crux of backlog refinement. If you don't know how to arrange your backlog items using any of this prioritization method, then you might struggle a little bit to manage your backlog. Then you'll be seeing everything flying up and down. You'll not be able to explain to your stakeholder why. Remember, the exercise is not it's not for you alone to determine what goes out and what stays in the backlog. But you, as a business analyst, you guide them using this concept, which you need to explain to them in a simple layman language, right? To say, we need to do this exercise. So you workshop the backlog management. You say, we have 10 items in the backlog. Then this is the prioritization framework that we're going to use, and then everybody, working together, will be able to identify that this is the one uh, that needs to go out first. So the Kano is not Kano. I don't call it Kano. Well, it's Kano model is actually a powerful framework, right? It's actually very common across so many um, industry, right? Manufacturing and all of that, right? Right. And basically, what is all about is saying is that which of the feature, right, that if we deliver it, the customer will like have what we call heaven experience or a wow experience, right? So when we have features or items that need to be delivered, and then we looked at, okay, which one, right, will, if you deliver it today, right, based on your customer segmentation, they'll be wowed, they will love it, right? As one guy used to say, they will love it and they will like it so much. So, for example, um, banking application, for example, mobile banking application. Let's say you have login, right, as a use case. Now, and someone say, oh, let us improve on how the login works. Let us use username and password. I'm just being just going to the basis. And then someone says, well, I think we should introduce biometrics, right? And then you discover, or you, based on your evaluation, the the set of customer that uses your product are mostly Gen Zs, right? That they don't have time memorizing password. They just want to put their fingerprint and everything goes. Now, what you use to evaluate, right? This is the Kano model, right? To say, if you give them this one, right, it will wow them. It will improve the performance of the app, and then it kind of distinguish or differentiate your product from another person, right? So here in Kano model, innovation wins all the time. Whatever product feature that is being brought in, or whatever item that is coming, must be something that is causing a big innovation in the way that the product works. All right. So let's move on. Now, in refining, there's something called backlog refining. Right. It's just basically to get more information or evaluate the sizing of items, right? And so let's just say you have 3 or 4 things in the backlog, right? Now, when you refine it, you're trying to understand how complex is what, how complex is that item is. What is the complexity? Do we need to build this feature on like 4, 5 touch points? How simple it is for it to build, right? Right. Then you're looking at the risk, right? What exact risk is being mitigated, right, with this, and then what effort is required, right? So that also helps you to refine the backlog. Refine is like you're providing additional information to improve your judgment on the backlog items, right? So this is being done. This can be done by the Scrum Master in collaboration with the business analyst. So you go back to the backlog and say, let's look at this. How complex it is? What risk is this actually dealing with? And then what is the effort required? And this can help you to put what we call story points around it, right? If you have the Scrum guide, it tells you how to put story points, right? Where you have extra large, we are using shirt size. So, this work is extra large. This one is small t-shirt and all of that, right? So the estimation techniques, right, gives you the understanding of it's basically you're trying to add more, refine what you have there, getting more information that helps you to determine the priority, right? All right. So you can use any of these techniques, estimation techniques, and then you can use the progressive elaboration, right? Where details continue to emerge over time and you make it granular, right? So sometimes when people brings requests, right, sometimes it's just an idea, right, and they're not clear, right? So maybe I should say also backlogs could also be a laundry list where you just dump so many things. So you can dump Epic, right? Epic is an um, um, high level idea of what you're thinking. Just dump it there, and then over time, you need to break it down, right? Because when you come back and you do refining the backlog, you're asking the question, okay, what exactly is this does this mean, and then you break it down further. So your backlog refining backlog or backlog refinement is an ongoing process of keeping your backlog healthy, right? To make sure that the information that are there, right, are detailed appropriately, well estimated, and then they get prioritized. Now, those information, right, in a way helps you to get it prioritized, right? Okay. Now, just to also add one more two things to it. When you do backlog refinement, it also helps you to be able to establish what we call DOR, right? That is, this particular item is ready to be moved, right, to be delivered, right, or move closer to development or move into sprint for those who have practice agile, right? So when you do refinement, you look at items that are clear in terms of the dependency around them or blockers. You can say, oh no, with this one, if you pick this particular item, we can deliver it quickly. Okay. All right. So I've touched a little bit about maintaining backlog, right? Um, in the introduction, I said that one of the challenges you have with backlogs is that it can continue to be growing, and then it doesn't have I mean things are not moving out, right? So one of the ways to check your backlogs, the health indicator, is to check the growth rates. How many new items are coming in and how many items are getting completed, that is moving out, right? Then you need to check the age of items in your backlog, the date the item was logged into backlog. And if it is spending more than a month, more than a month, 2 months, 3 months, they need to start asking questions. Why is that item there for a very long time, right? Then you need to also talk about refinement velocity. What's the speed at which you go and check the items, right? Whether it's a defect, whether it's user story, right? What are the speed that you are changing those items from the state of being logged to a state of ready. Ready means that that particular item is ready to be moved to be delivered, right? So if you don't have a proper refinement skills, or you don't know how to continue to prioritize or have a proper governance, right? Then you're going to have a problem around this, right? Or sometimes some people, they keep some item in the backlog. They say, this request, they've request for it from 2019 and it's still there, right? And you know that it's not going to be delivered, then it needs to be pushed out, right? So as a business analyst, right, you need to understand that you need to check this um, backlog health indicators to ensure that you have um, a backlog that is well groomed, well refined, and then the health indicator is positive, right? Now, backlog sometimes could be a an escape route for project managers. Most times, you ask them, "Oh, why have you not deployed this particular feature?" They say it's in the backlog. Why is this one not come? Is in the backlog. Why is this one not come? Is the backlog, right? Now, as a business analyst, you have to hold them accountable to ask them, if it is a backlog, when are we refining them to ensure that we deliver them? So you have some companies, they do before they start a new sprint, they do this refinement session, right? Whereby they go and check, and then the business analyst actually most times should actually take the lead to be able to provide detailed information about it, right? All right. I don't know whether I've spent more time than necessary. How much time do I still have? Am I audible?
Yes, you're audible.
Yes.
I have a
Okay.
question, sir.
Sorry?
I have a question.
You have a question. Okay. Go ahead.
Okay, my question centers around the dumping of requirements in the backlog, especially incomplete requirements. So you find out that there are items in the backlog that are aging. And when each time you visit the backlog to see why is this thing still here, you find out, okay, incomplete requirements. Oh, there's this dependency here and there, probably approval from the governing body as it concerns probably telecom industries and some other things like that. How do you curtail this kind of thing, to slow down on the product owner or probably your stakeholders just coming to dump requirements in the backlog, and majority of them are not moving out because of incomplete requirements or some dependencies here and there that are that are beyond the reach of your technical team or the control of your immediate technical team that are supposed to work on that those requirements. So I'm asking this question because you just go to your backlog sometimes and you find out that there are items there aging 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, even up to a year and so on. So how do you control this kind of
Okay.
situation?
All right. Yeah. Great question. Yeah. So number one thing is actually to establish a governance, right? And that's what we're talking about, backlog management, right? Is to establish a governance around what goes into the backlog. For how long should an item stay in the backlog, right? And also, um, what are the things, right, in terms of information that are required before an item is logged into a backlog. If those information are not provided or are not available, right, you're going to enter into an on-hand loop of items in the backlog. Some people are very interesting. When that item gets into backlog, they tell you, don't remove it, don't remove it. It has to be there, right? But when you have a proper governance around it to say, okay, what's your frequency of refinement? Okay, is it twice in a week or 3 times in a week? And then what are the things guiding backlog refinement? Are we looking for items that are spent more than 10 weeks? If it has spent more than 10 weeks, it means only one thing: that item is not required again. It's not important to whoever logs it, right? Because an item cannot be there as much as 10 weeks. I'm just using an example, right? So these are the ground rules or governance you build around it, right? Some other things you can do could be, right, um, looking at, sorry, some other things could be um, ensuring, right, that you have a group of people, right? You can have a group of people, like, for example, I mentioned the product council, right? Some instance, we have a product owner that is too powerful, that believes that he wants to do and undo, but you can have a product council to say, 3 people are the one that we need to make, and that needs to align before you get an item into backlog. So whoever is bringing it must come defend the item before they just dump it into the backlog. The backlog is not a wish list, in quote and of quote, right? It's just a place where you have an idea, right? Then another stakeholder have another idea, another stakeholder have another idea, or there is a defect, or there is a regulatory item that needs to be delivered, and then your capacity of your team is limited. They can't do all of them at the same time, right? So you are looking at 5 good items. Let me just use that. 5 good items. And you're looking at, out of these 5 good items, which one is the best one based on value that needs to be prioritized to go out first, So backlog is not a dumping ground where you dump things and then you come into the backlog. You don't understand. So that has to be firm up and that has to be agreed. And if you're having, things like there are just too many dependencies happening, then you need to, in your retros, you need to ask questions. Why are those dependencies continually, there, right? What should be done to ensure that those dependencies, are addressed quickly, right? So I hope I've answered your question, right? So moving forward, right, backlog, right, is very essential, right, for um, enterprise. It helps them to be able to prepare for the market, response to market, right? It helps them to go to the market with the right product at the right time, right? You can go to the market. When I mean market, we launch product or something. You can launch your product and then you'll be wondering, why did I launch this product? Because, why did I launch this feature, right? Because at the end of it, there's no return on investment, right? Because you don't do a proper evaluation of the feature in question. You didn't do a estimate how long it will take, right? You don't have those things before you know, go into market and then you discover that, oh, something that you think will take you 2 weeks is taking you 4 weeks, right? That means you didn't do a proper um, backlog management, right? Now, backlog in itself can also help, you know, so if you have portfolio management, if you have a lot of products, right? You want to like concentrate the team's effort, right, to contribute to the highest item. To deliver the item with the highest value, right? So sometimes you have some small companies, right? Like OP. OP is a very small company, but what they do is to focus on one thing they would throw, one feature that they would take to the market, and then the whole market, the whole um, customer or subscriber, right, gets attracted to that particular feature, right? So they focus on it. Sometimes it could be a resource in terms of, the value. The money, right, or resource. Money that they used to. They need to invest. They don't have so much, right? They have a limited amount of capital, whatever, to invest in a particular feature. They will look at which one is the highest. Let's look at our backlog. Let's put everything together, right? So backlogs aids innovations and also get the best out of, the team, right? I always go back to this slide because of one thing, right? Um, Backlog comes as a result of response um, to a need, right? And that's a change. So you need a change, and the stakeholder will say, "Oh, we want X, Y, Z to be done." That's a change that is required, right? But you need to evaluate that transformation you're talking about. If you deliver a particular feature, how much of transformation, if it can be measured, right, will come, right? So the core of business analysis, right, the core concept of business analysis revolve around these things. And backlog is also something that, can help us to be able to ensure that when we are doing a particular change, right, the change actually in terms of value, right, um, you know, comes out, right? Then the need, the backlog in itself is not um, the end, but a means to an end, right? So when we're addressing a problem at any point in time, we need to address the most critical problem. Or if we're taking advantage of an opportunity, we must take an opportunity, the biggest opportunity that will give us the largest income, the highest customer satisfaction, you know, recorded and all of that, right? So you have a backlog and you say, okay, we want to meet the need of the customer, right? Which one can we do that will bring in that highest level of impact, right? Solution, which of the solutions, which of the item we actually, will satisfy. Sometimes you need to deliver one thing that can satisfy one or more needs, right? So backlog can help us. We put all these things together, right? Stakeholder. Now I talk about um, stakeholder are actually part of the backlog management. If you are the one that takes the shot, right, then you might run into problem. But when you have a stakeholder that works with you and you workshop this backlog management and say, hey, we have X number of items. Let's workshop it. Let's do prioritization. Let's use this method. Let's look at the value, right? That each one of these items we give to us, and then we determine which one we are going out with first because we have limited resources. Value is very important. Whatever feature you are trying to deploy or whatever is coming out of your backlog must give the highest value, right? So if you have 3 items in your backlog, for example, and you decide to pick number one, the assumption or the understanding that behind that decision is that if you take that number one and deploy that feature, it will give you at that point in time the highest value compared to the other um, item in the backlog. Finally, setting context, right, is also very important. Backlog helps you, right, to understand how you can implement things in context, right? The circumstances, that influence are influenced by change. So, that you can deploy 2 things, right? And then, you know, um, there might be excellent items, right? But because you need to understand the context. Context will be market trends and all of that, right? And that's also part of the things that you need to do as part of your backlog management. To say, okay, these 2 things, okay, they are very good. Maybe they have the same, in terms of prioritization, the same thing. But in terms of the market trends, like during COVID, right, some features came out that I never even thought of. I'm sure that there will have been some, fantastic idea before then, but when COVID came, those ideas just fizzle out. They have high priority, but when COVID came, the market changes, and then people can go back to the backlog and say, yes, let's look at what can go out at this time, and based on the market trend, will give us the best, right? All right, I think I've spoken to this in context, right? To say that, maybe I should just explain context a little bit more, right? Your backlog should also be um, looking at what is happening in the market, right? And that's one of the things you can use to also arrange what is in your backlog, right? So the BACCM have an impact on the backlog, right? It's something you need to factor in, right? I'll just skip this. So what you're seeing here is an example of an enterprise backlog, right? Um, you can see the rank. This is a user story. This is a defect. This is a CR. That's change request. This is NFR. Then they have different value. This is the effort, 5 days, 8 days. Now this one is at the state of ready. That is, yeah, that is everything is ready to be shipped out to be deployed. I don't know why this one must have been the one at the topmost. Then this one is, they are still currently refining this one, what exactly it is, to understand. These ones are pretty much new. Then this one is ready to go, right? So you can see ready, you see the definitions here. Ready means highly refined detail, small size. If you give it to a developer, they can, worked on it quickly. The one that is still undergoing refining is the one that still is medium size rather, and then there's still a whole lot of question around it that needs to be understood. Future works, loosely defined epics, large size. Um, that is backlog, right? Okay. All right. So if you consolidate our understanding, we'll be able to get the best of value, right? And turn backlog management to a strategic tool. And then when we continue to use it, we'll be able to help our organization to balance between demand and capacity, right? The business team asking for 201 things at the same time, you'll be able to balance it, not by confusing them, but giving them a clear uh, method or technique, which is called backlog management, to say, hey, these are the things you need. This one, you know, which one do you want to go at first? Okay, let's do this calculation. Whatever prioritization framework you want to use, you'll be able to explain to them and they will reason with you, right? So you can use any of the prioritization um, to decide, and then, you know, continuous refinement helps you to ensure that in your backlog, you get the item ready for development anytime you want to pick it, right? Um, when you apply the core concepts from business analysis core concepts um, lens, you'll be able to apply it also to align the items you have in your backlog, right? That is all from me. All right. So if there are questions, I'll be willing to answer them. I hope I've been audible and I'm not speaking to myself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. Do you have questions? I mean, if you have questions, you can go ahead and speak. Let me just pull this back.
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening. So my question is, there's this term often used in backlog refinement, DOD and DOR. So can you please shed more light on them? Thank you.
Yeah. DOD's definition of done, right? Is that what you're referring to?
Yes.
And then DOR is definition of ready. That's what you're speaking to, right?
Yes. Yes, exactly.
Okay. All right. So when we have items, right, that needs to go into the ready state. Ready state means that the item can be picked and be developed, right? Definition of readiness is just like an input gate, right? To say that if you pick an item, what defines it to be ready, right? And there are so many checklists. For example, we have a whole lot of checklists to say, if I pick this particular item from my backlog, right? How can I say this is ready? Ready means that we can take it and go and develop it, and then take it into production, right? We have a whole lot of checklists to say that this item in itself, can it be developed on its own? Is it independent? If we use invest, right? Can it be developed on its own? Is it clear in terms of requirements? Are there dependencies? Is it valuable, right? Is it something that, in terms of benefit, is it beneficial to the stakeholder? The product owner, is it really looking at it and say, okay, I need this, and this is the value attached to it? Can we estimate how long it's going to take us to deliver it, right? Is this small? Is it something we can finish in 2 or 3 weeks, right? And is it something that we can test? So that's the definition of readiness, to say that if I pick an item and I want to say, okay, and this happens most times when you're doing your backlog refinement, right? Or grooming, as the case may be, right? And you look at it to say, okay, which of the items can we pick so that we can take it into the next sprint to start working on it? So that's the definition of ready. If this checklist, if the item does not answer or pass this checklist, right? If it's not testable, it's not small, you can't estimate how long it will take to deliver it, right? Then it's not ready, right? So that's the definition of readiness. So if you want to ensure that you complete a sprint, because in Agile, we use Agile. Agile is about 2 to 3 weeks, right? And you want to finish something, and Agile says whatever you have to do, 2 or 3 weeks, right? You should be able to deliver it. So if it's not small, if you deliver in 2 weeks, right? Then it's not ready. You need to break it down, right? So that's just basically what definition of ready means, to say what are the checklists, what are the things, questions that need to be answered concerning an item. Now, definition of done is the output gate, right? When you are done, what does finish means? What does it look like, right? To say we are done with this particular item. We're done with this particular item. This item is done and is ready, right? So definition of done, right, could varies, right? So when someone say we are done with this particular feature, right, it means that has it been tested? Has it been evaluated? Some people might do what we call deploy and do pilot that particular feature, right? Has this been validated by a tester? Have you completed regression testing? Have you documented all APIs, documents, user guide for that particular feature, right? Have you done a security scan, etc.? So you it's not the same thing across organizations, right? It's what you set as your governance, to say that before anybody can say, "Oh, we are done with this particular feature, this and this and this and this has been done," before it can be marked by your quality assurance team to say, yeah, this is good to go. This can be shipped outside to the external consumer. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, thank you. Thank you so much.
All right. I think if you are raising up your hand, you can speak, because I'm not seeing people's hand.
There's a question in the chat.
Okay. All right. Let me try it. So you did rather. Good evening. My question is, who owns the backlog, a BA or a PO? The standard answer to this is the PO, right? The PO owns the backlog, right? The interesting thing about Agile is, Agile says that you can adapt it. For example, we have an adapted agile principle, right? So some things we tailor it to our organization. So, primarily, the PO owns the backlog because he's the one that he's the one that is they have the product roadmap. He's the one that is having the brainwave every day. And so I need to put this one, I need to put this one there. But remember also that the BA is called the proxy product owner, right? So his responsibility here is to ensure that whatever goes into that backlog, right, it can be estimated, can be evaluated in terms of value, can be, you know, they are testable, they are not vague. It's easy for you to prioritize. I mean, it's easy for you to estimate how long it's going to take for them to be delivered. So a product owner can decide to, I mean, just put anything there, right? Then the BA is actually the one responsible for the backlog health management, health indicator. Remember, we talk about, that the health of the backlog is very important. Otherwise, the product owner will just keep dumping things there and then nothing is going out. So the BA has responsibility of ensuring that place is clean, stabilized. Then all items that are, aged, they are actually taken out, right? Like recently, we took a decision um, for, my organization, for items that are more than 1 year to be purged out. Just delete all of them, right? Just told the PO if we have an item here in the backlog for a year plus, then it means that it's either there is no business exigency for it, technology has gone. I mean, technology has moved on, the business has moved on, the market has moved on. Then it's not required. Then don't need to be keeping it there, right? So that's to answer that question. All right. Can't see any other question here. Okay. I can't see any hands raised. All right. Okay. All right. If there are no questions, I want to believe that I will hand over back to Mr. President. I wanted to actually what's the word? I wanted to put some question and answer, but I guess I did not put it. But let me see if I can get so that we can see if we can have some more discussion. All right. But I want to believe that the question, um the topic is clear. Hello, am I audible? Am I still audible?
Yes.
Okay. Or if you have any question in CBAP that you like us to discuss. Okay. I wanted to see if I can get those questions. Okay, let's give me a minute. All right. So we've talked about 3 prioritization techniques, or 4, right? Does anybody remember any one of them?
Yes. Um, we have
Okay.
Moscow. We have weighted um weighted something, sir. Then
Wait, tell
we,
just
and we have cost of delay. Is it cost of delay or this thing?
We have Kano, or is it Keno?
Yeah.
no.
No.
Okay. Okay, please confirm it. Can I see my screen?
Not yet.
No.
Okay. All right. So let me share my screen. So all right. Can I see my screen?
Yes.
Okay. All right, let me go back. What can I see? You can see the question, right?
Yes.
Okay. So a business analyst is working with the product owner who is struggling to prioritize features that has high cost of delay or varying implementation durations. Which prioritization technique should the BA recommend to ensure highest economic value is delivered first? So you can drop your answer in the chat room. Someone says C, weighted shortage just first. Okay. Another person, C. Are you going for C because one person said C? Okay. And then you want to mute and tell us why it's C? Or if you have selected C, want to mute and tell us why it is C? Anybody? Or we are not sure? Want me to read the question again? A business analyst is working a product owner who is struggling to prioritize features that has highest cost of delay but varying implementation durations. Which prioritization technique should the BA recommend to ensure the highest economic value is delivered first? Okay. Of course, the answer should be what? Okay. And then you want to speak?
Yeah, basically, it's the one that has the shortest time, the shortest duration to implement.
Okay. So you are right. Okay. So you can see it's talking about highest cost of delay. Remember we talked about the one highest cost of delay, that's COD. That one is on its own. However, we talk about weighted shortest job first, right? So amongst the ones that have cost of delay, which one has shortest duration? That's the one that you should pick first. So got it right. According to Babok Guide version 3, who is ultimately accountable for prioritization of backlog, even if the business analyst perform the majority of the refinement work. Question number 2. D. Everybody's voting for. All right, D. Okay. Accountability usually rests with the person who owns the product, return, and investment. Of course, that should be the product owner. All right. Now, next one. During a backlog refinement session, the team discover a requirement that has been in the backlog for 9 months without being selected for a sprint. What is the most appropriate action for the BA to take regarding this zombie requirements? Moving to the next sprint immediately to clear the queue. Review its current alignment with organizational goals and prune or archive it if no longer relevant. Keep it in the backlog indefinitely until someone explicitly asks to delete it. Increase its priority since it has been waiting the longest. Okay, someone says B. Yeah, 2 person says B. All right. Okay. Does anyone has a contrary opinion? Nobody. Okay. Remember we mentioned that the BA, right, can take an action, even though it's not the one that owns the backlog. It can take an action, right? See, the most appropriate action for the BA to take. To say that, in as much I'm not the one that owns the backlog, but I mean, I have to keep the backlog healthy all the time. And one of the way to keep the backlog healthy is to check before you purge. Please make sure you align, have a genuine reason why you are purging it, right? It's not enough to say, okay, that stayed 1 year, we are purging it, right? I remember there was a project I worked on, right? Then biometrics wasn't common, biometric technology wasn't common, and then someone just thought of it and said, no, we need to do biometrics, you know, facial capturing and all of that. It was in that backlog for a very long time because the technology was not available. But we know the technology is relatively new and it just coming to market, right? So we have to make sure that the requirement still aligns with organizational strategy, right? To say that okay, we are going towards biometrics login, biometrics validation, and on what have you. So it is very important to review it with your organization goal, prune it, and archive it. It's no longer relevant, right? We talk about backlog health. Okay. Which of the following best described the negotiable component of invest criteria for LD backlog item? This one is a tough one. I think Mr. President should give like ₦1 million for whoever can answer this question correctly. Nobody has answered though. Who wants to take the first? I believe we know invest.
It's I think C is the parental there. I think I'm saying that. Yeah, C,
Why?
because the requirements needs to be flexible in a way that just like the option C says, the priority can change at any time. Maybe at the start of the project, it might be something that the product owner wants delivered urgently, but along the line, something can come up and that would make that particular requirement no longer be a priority. So that requirement needs to be something that should they decide tomorrow that this is no longer a priority. It's not going to have that much of a serious impact on the project or initiative.
Okay. Any other person? I see AA. Is it AA? AA said A. I don't know whether it's this question or another question. You want to unmute your mic and contribute? Or any other person? Okay. Nobody wants to attempt it. It seems this is the most difficult question. But who can explain negotiable in the first place? Right? I say a story is negotiable.
Basically, I think the team can talk about the story. They can deliberate on it. It's not cast in stone.
Yeah, that is it. So it's not cast on stone, so it's something that can change. So if you understand that, so is the question is now which of the following best describe the negotiable component of invest criteria for LD backlog item? It says the story is not rigid contract and allow for collaborative refinement of the detail during development. Okay, the item is so small it doesn't require sign off. I think no. The priority of the item can change anytime um, by any stakeholder. Sounds like it a bit. The cost of requirement can be argued. I don't know this word with the vendor, right? So it's between A and C. So if your answer is A, type it again. If it is C, type it again. So Lio is sure is A. Is it AI to the rescue or Google to the rescue? Huh? Okay, let me show some hints. Think about difference between a detailed contract and a placeholder for conversation. Okay. All right. Here's habits. All right. So negotiable just means that whenever there's a user story that goes into the backlog, right? It's not rigid. It's subject. It's not a rigid contract. It's subject to change, right? We can refine it, all right? But maybe what puts some people was the development, all right? If you guys are tired, just let me know. A BA is using Kano, is it Kano? Yeah, Kano model to categorize requirements. A stakeholder requests a feature that, if missing, causes extreme dissatisfaction. But if it's present, does not increase satisfaction beyond a neutral level. How should this be classified? This one, I give you permission to go and check because we didn't speak, so much about Kano in terms of low level, right? But everything is talking about, when you deploy a feature, right? How does it make the customer? Does it make the customer any different? This new feature, what about it? Right? Or this new feature that is deployed. So, just something basic, right? Or the feature, it improves the performance. This is where the feature that you deploy must be the lighter. Everybody is wowed. Wow, this one makes everything, you know. All right. So, all right. I don't know. Okay. I'm seeing C, 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 C. Okay. If, let's read the question again. A B is using the Kano model to categorize requirements. A stakeholder requests a feature that, if missing, causes extreme dissatisfaction. But if present, it does not increase satisfaction beyond neutral level. Right? How you need to read this question very well again. How should this be classified? If you say C, Precious, what's your answer? I mean, why did you say C? Somebody is getting an
So
idea.
for so
Like,
first,
why did
right?
you change to B? No,
So the
Precious, go
question
ahead.
says the question says that if that feature is missing, it's going to cause extreme dissatisfaction. So
Uh-huh.
that means
But
A is eliminated. We've eliminated A like that because indifference means it's either hot nor cold. So whether it's there or not, people would not notice. But seeing as the absence of that feature is going to cause extreme dissatisfaction, A is out, and the presence of it is not really going to improve satisfaction by a significant level. So D is out. So now it is
Mhm.
between B
Yeah,
and
let's
C. So now
okay.
for B, basic need. Okay, this is tricky because
Uh-huh.
it falls under basic need because the fact that it is important enough to not be left out, but not really important enough that you'd feel it means it is a basic need. And it can
Okay.
also be a performance feature
Future.
as well that you might not necessarily know the impact until it has left that application. So
Okay. Let me this category
you must say,
represents table stakes or must have features that user takes for granted.
hmm.
That one has
So
caused more fusion. It's NFR.
so
Non-functional
I think it's
requirement.
performance.
It could be a non-functional requirement, but if it's not there,
I think it's so if it's NFR, I think it's performance then because NFR is basically speaks to the performance of um a platform or app. So I'll stick with C.
see. Okay. Liar, do you want to unmute and speak before we reveal the answer?
Well, I chose B because it's it is a must-have. If it is missing, it will cause extreme dissatisfaction. But in terms of its presence, it's not. It doesn't give any excitement, but it is a
Yeah.
must-have.
Yeah. Okay. It's a basic need. So, Liar, you are correct. I don't know whether whether you guess it or but you are correct. It's just a basic need, right? Doesn't right? Doesn't it's I mean kind of not indifferent, right? I mean the customer might not be asking for it, but if it's not there, right, they'll be asking for it. But if it's there, they say, are you not supposed to put it there in the first place? Right? So all right, let's move fast. My president, me, I can stay at it tomorrow morning. So if it's time to close the shop, let us know. All right. What's the primary risk of having a backlog where 90% of the items are categorized as must have in Moscow analysis? Moscow analysis. What's the primary risk of having a backlog? 90% of the items. Remember, we have must have, we have COD, cost of delay, we have weighted shortest job first, we have what's the last one again? So what's the primary risk of having backlog where 90% of the items are categorized using this prioritization framework? Must have. Everything must have, must have, must have, must have. As we used to say, everything is priority one. So what's the risk? Okay. And then it says C, it eliminates the project's ability to manage scope and increase the risk of delivery failure. Okay. Nobody has thought about this B. The only thing about this B, the development team will be too bored with critical tasks because 90% of the work they are being given is everything is P1 must have. Okay. The customer will be too satisfied with high volume of critical features. Well, not really. All right. So since you said C, okay. If everything is critical, if he has no levers to pull, if time or resource run short, making failure more likely. Remember, we said that your backlog, right? So the risk here, right? It's not as if you are not doing backlog management, but you are not doing it right? Because if 90%, if you have 10 items and all 9 of them, right, is must have, then there's a problem, right? So what you can do is to have a composite or do a further evaluation to say if this one is must have, out of this must have, which one must be must have, right? We usually do that if someone say everything is P1. So I say out of this P1, which one is most important out of this P1, right? And that's where you continue to do a proper backlog management, right? Right. A business analyst is managing a backlog for highly regulated banking application. Which type of requirements are frequently neglected during prioritization, but are essential for long-term health? You can guess this one. Anyone? Highly regulated. The word there is highly regulated banking application. Which type of requirements are frequently neglected during prioritization that are not prioritized but are essential to long-term health? Okay, I think so too. All right, let's see. All right, most times, NFRs are always coming last, right? In the context of backlog management technique, what is DOR? I think someone asked this question. So the criteria used to determine if a project should be funded, the point at which customers sign up the final product, the scheduled date for product release, a set of criteria items as sufficient detail and clarity to be moved into development. Yeah, this one is a walk in the park, right? Remember I said it's like a gate, right? We call it the input gate, right? So the opposite of DOR is DOD, right? If it doesn't, all right. We have very smart people here. When managing dependency in the backlog, how should a BA handle a high priority functional requirement that depends on low priority technical upgrade? When managing dependencies in backlog, BA handles a high priority functional requirement that depends. How should a BA handle a high priority functional requirement that depends on low priority technical upgrade? Like, did you say D? Why? Hello? If you're speaking, you're muted. Okay, just shoot. So think about logical sequence required to build a house before. Okay. Precious said D. Why is D?
So I chose D because
I'll give you a hint too.
think
Think
about
about
logical
the
sequence.
logical sequence required to build a house. Foundation before the roof.
Yeah,
Look
so
at
in
the
this
option.
case, the if we're going to use foundation before roof, that low priority technical upgrade that high priority functional requirements is dependent on can be considered as the foundation, because if we overlook what that statement clearly means, that if you overlook that slow priority technical upgrade and just go straight to the high priority one, with time you are going to see the effect of that. So it's basically do focus on that low
With
priority
this,
one
with
first and
this,
ensure that
with this tips, I will also change your answer. I think so.
mm, implement the use the
Don't you think
function.
so?
Keep the words of low priority is safe and implement the version.
And then, do you want to change your answer? Is this your final answer? It sounds interesting. Yeah.
Yes, it is. Because the
Want to
high
change your
priority
answer?
functional, no.
Why?
Because the high functional requirement, the high priority requirement, the functional one depends on that low priority. So they had to go pari passu. So you have to elevate that technical upgrade because the functional is depending on it.
How? I'm just curious. How? Are you going to do that with your stakeholder? We're going to work with you. What technique do you want to use to upgrade that priority?
For me, it's urgent.
It's
I would say
urgent.
maybe not urgent, but it's a high priority functional requirement. So you cannot do you can't keep the low one at the low level without implementing the high one, because the high one depends on the other one, the technical requirements. So if you have to elevate it, because they must be implemented along side by side, because the high one depends on the low priority.
Okay. So, says you're right. You're right. Okay. The final one. I can see people are tired, so people are already dropping off. My president, are you still there? That's the last question. What is the primary objective of backlog refinement? Right. I think they used to call it grooming in the olden days, but later they changed it to refinement. All right. So, what's the primary objective of backlog refinement? Some people still call it grooming. Session from a business analysis perspective. This is a very interesting question. To ensure backlog are clearly defined, estimated, prioritized for upcoming work. To write the project charter, that's for PM. To discipline the team for not completing tasks in the that's irrelevant. To demo latest feature, that is later. All right, so we are correct. So clap for yourselves. You got 100 over 100. All right. So this is how sometimes I just play around with. Abigail, Abigail has 1 score. Eneni has 10. Precious has 10. Leonard 1. Who else again just showed up now? Laya had, I think, 10. Laya has been participating. Precious 10. Who else again? Every other person 0. Okay, iPhone. I don't know his iPhone. I don't know whether I got that question. AA 1. Okay, Tumbosun 1. All right. All right. It's nice speaking with you guys. I mean, if there are no questions, I guess we need to call it a day. I don't know if the president is still on the call. Okay. I think we've had a wonderful evening learning. I've also been able to refresh my knowledge around business analysis. I mean, one very interesting thing about study group is you just get to learn something new from one another, right? Thank you very much. I don't know, the president is not on the call. I guess we'll call it a day. He's not here. Okay, let me call him on WhatsApp. Yeah, we are done. Okay. All right. All right. Thanks everyone. I will share the slides. You can follow me on LinkedIn. Yeah, just look for Oluseye Oyede. There are 2 of them. One is doesn't have too much of information. The other one has it. Right. My name is kind of long there. All right. See you guys at the top. Enjoy the rest of your evening and keep learning. Right. See you some other time.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Good night, everyone.
Yeah. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah.